What happens when Hollywood's most unpredictable star collides with daytime television's friendliest host? You're about to see one of the most shocking talk show meltdowns ever caught on camera. Mark Wahlberg walked onto the Kelly Clarkson Show expecting a routine interview. The kind every celebrity does when they've got a new movie to promote. But instead of an easy chat filled with smiles and anecdotes, what unfolded was a verbal war zone that left producers scrambling and the audience sitting in stunned silence. This wasn't just another celebrity mood swing. This was a full-blown clash of egos. Live and unfiltered, the Kelly Clarkson Show had built its reputation on warmth and comfort. Kelly was America's sweetheart, the host who could get anyone to open up. The singer-turned-talk show queen who transformed even guarded stars into storytellers. So when Wahlberg was booked to promote his latest action thriller, everyone expected the usual Kelly magic, a few laughs, some behind-the-scenes gossip, and maybe a charming story or two. As Kelly stepped onto the set, her trademark smile lit up the room. The audience buzzed with excitement, clapping and cheering. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Wahlberg," she announced brightly. Mark strolled out with confidence, flashing his usual easy grin, waving to the crowd like a prizefighter entering the ring. "Mark, thank you so much for being here," Kelly began warmly. "I've been looking forward to this. Your new film looks absolutely incredible." "Thanks for having me, Kelly," Mark said, leaning back in his chair. "This one's been a long time coming. Really proud of it." The setup seemed flawless. Cameras rolled, applause settled, and Kelly went in with her first question. "So tell me about the physical prep for this role," she asked. "Everyone knows you're famous for those 4 a.m. workouts, but this character, he looks like a whole new level." The audience chuckled softly. But Mark's smile froze. A flicker of annoyance crossed his face. "You know, Kelly," he said slowly, "I'm honestly getting tired of everyone leading with my workout routine. I'm more than a gym schedule." The air shifted. Kelly blinked, caught off guard, but kept her signature poise. "Oh, absolutely, of course," she said quickly. "I just meant it's inspiring to so many people." "But you're right. You're an incredibly talented actor with such a range. That's not what you led with." Mark cut in, his tone sharper now. "First thing out of your mouth is about my body. My workout. Do you ask other actors about their bodies first?" A ripple of unease spread through the audience. The laughter died instantly. Kelly, still smiling, but with a tightness around her eyes, tried to steer the ship. "Fair point, Mark. Let's talk about the film itself. It's about redemption, second chances. What drew you to a story like this?" Mark exhaled, shoulders loosening slightly. "That's better. The script spoke to me. It's about a guy who's made mistakes, trying to make amends while staying true to himself." Kelly leaned in, sensing an opening. "That must resonate with you personally. You've been open about your own journey, the challenges from your younger years." And that's when everything snapped. Mark's jaw clenched, his eyes darkened. "My past," he said, voice low but hard, "is something I've already addressed. I've done the work. I've moved forward." Kelly nodded, trying to soften the moment. "Of course. That's what makes your performances so powerful. You bring that authenticity, that real experience." "Real experience." Mark's voice rose, sharp enough to cut the silence. "You mean the way the media drags up things from decades ago whenever it fits the story they want to sell? Is that the real experience you're talking about?" The studio went dead quiet. Producers gestured frantically from behind the cameras. But Kelly stayed locked in, refusing to lose control of her set. "Mark, I wasn't trying to upset you," she said evenly, though her voice carried strain now. "I was trying to connect your personal growth to your professional choices." "No," Mark snapped, sitting forward in his chair. "You knew exactly what you were doing." Kelly's smile faltered at last. Her eyes flicked toward the audience, then back to him. "I think there's a misunderstanding. I invited you here because I'm genuinely interested in your work, in your evolution as an artist. That's why you're here." Mark shook his head, his frustration boiling over. "No, Kelly, that's not why I'm here." And with those words, the entire studio realized this interview was no longer an interview. It was a fight. "I'm here because your people called my people," Mark snapped, his voice carrying across the hushed studio, "and said you wanted to have a conversation about my film." A film, by the way, that actually deals with complex social issues. A film that has something to say about society. But instead, he gestured sharply toward Kelly. "You want to turn this into some kind of therapy session?" Kelly's smile was gone now. What replaced it was confusion, and the first flickers of anger. Her tone sharpened. "I asked you about your preparation for the role and how your experiences inform your acting choices. That's not therapy, Mark. Those are standard interview questions. Every actor gets asked about their process. Standard for who?" Mark fired back, leaning forward. His voice rose another notch, vibrating with frustration. "You think I don't see the difference? Some actors come here and you talk about craft, vision, art. Then there's me. With me, you want to dig up old dirt and play armchair psychologist in front of your audience." The audience leaned in, transfixed, sensing the tension snapping tighter by the second. Kelly glanced at her producer, who was making urgent cutting gestures, but she was too deep in it now. Her professional mask was slipping, her voice sharpening. "That's completely unfair," Kelly shot back. "I treat every guest with respect. I prepare, I research, I try to make these conversations meaningful for you and for the audience." "Meaningful conversations," Mark repeated mockingly, his words dripping with venom. "Is that what you call dragging me through the worst mistakes of my life on national television? You want meaningful? Let's talk about how this industry feeds off people's pasts, keeping them in cages while pretending to celebrate their growth." The words landed like a slap. Kelly's cheeks flushed red. She gripped the arms of her chair, her control slipping. "Nobody's trying to trap you, Mark, but your past is part of your story, whether you like it or not. And the fact that you overcame it, that you built a career after it, that's inspirational." Inspirational. Mark barked out a bitter laugh. "You know what's not inspirational? Having to defend things I did as a teenager every single time I sit down to promote my work. You know what's not inspirational? People like you pretending to care about my growth, and all you really want is to mine my trauma for ratings." Kelly's mask shattered. For the first time, real anger broke through in her voice. "Excuse me, mine your trauma? Mark, I have never exploited anyone's struggles for entertainment. That's not who I am, and it's not what this show stands for." "Really?" Mark leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, eyes locked on her. "Then explain why my past always comes up. Why can't we just talk about the work? Because those experiences shaped who you are as an artist." Kelly shot back, her voice rising to match his. "Because audiences connect with authenticity, with stories of redemption. And because, frankly, you're the one who made your journey part of your public image." Mark's eyes flashed. "I made it part of my image. Or did the media decide that's the only angle worth selling? You think I wake up every morning wanting to rehash the stupid mistakes I made as a kid? You think that's how I want to be remembered?" And then Kelly snapped words tumbling out before she could stop them. "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you built a career playing tough guys and broken men." The studio fell into stunned silence. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. Kelly instantly regretted the words, her hand flying to her mouth. Mark just stared at her, his anger cooling into something far more dangerous, cold, calculated. "Wow," he said quietly. "There it is. The real Kelly Clarkson. Not the sweetheart. Not America's angel. The one who'll kick a man when he's down and blame him for his own career. Kelly's face went pale. Mark, I didn't know. You meant it. He cut her off, voice low and controlled now, which somehow made it worse. Deep down, you think I deserve it. Because I was a scroop as a teenager. Because I came from the streets. Because I didn't have acting coaches in prep schools. That makes me less deserving of respect in your eyes, doesn't it? That's not true, Kelly protested, but her voice cracked. The confidence was gone. She was rattled. You don't have to say it, Mark continued, standing abruptly. Gasps rippled through the audience. It's written all over your face. In your tone. In your questions. You don't see me as a peer. You see me as a problem to be explained. Kelly remained in her chair, her body stiff, her eyes locked on him. Mark, please sit back down. Let's have a real conversation. A real conversation. Mark laughed harshly. Now you want real. After you basically told me I brought this all on myself, that I'm responsible for my own public punishment. The audience was frozen, breathless, as Kelly's eyes narrowed. Her voice dropped, sharp as glass. And what exactly are you suggesting, Mark? That I discriminate. That I treat you differently because of where you came from. I'm not suggesting, Mark said coldly. I'm stating it. You have your favorites. And then you have people like Metha Projects, the cautionary tales, the broken toys you can polish up for daytime TV. And guess which box you just shoved me into? Kelly's hands trembled now. Either from fury or fear, it was impossible to tell. The showdown had reached. The point of no return. That's absolutely ridiculous and completely false, Kelly snapped, her voice firm. I've interviewed everyone from country singers to movie stars, politicians to everyday heroes, and I treat them all with the same respect and professionalism. Really? Mark countered, stepping closer to her chair. When you had that British actor on last month, the one promoting Shakespeare, you grill him about his college drinking? When that pop star came on with an album about heartbreak, did you demand she relive every detail of her divorce? Kelly opened her mouth, then closed it again, visibly faltering. Those situations were completely different. How? Mark pressed. Because they went to better schools, came from better families. Because their mistakes are socially acceptable, while mine aren't. Kelly's jaw tightened. Because their personal lives weren't part of the story their publicists wanted to tell. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Mark's eyebrows shot up, a flash of vindication crossing his face. There it is. You admit it. You treat guests differently depending on what plays better for your audience. My publicist never told you to focus on my past mistakes. Kelly, that was all you. That's not what I meant, Kelly stammered. But the damage was done. I respect boundaries, she added quickly. Some actors don't want to discuss private matters, and I honor that. Not mine, apparently. Mark's tone dripped with sarcasm. My boundaries don't matter because my story is dramatic. Clickable, perfect social media bait. Kelly's composure cracked, her face shifting between anger, embarrassment, and frustration. You're twisting my words, making me sound like some kind of monster. I'm not twisting anything. Mark's voice was steady, sharp. I'm just holding up a mirror. You said it yourself, my past makes better television. That's not true, Kelly shot back, her voice rising. I asked about your experiences because they inform your work. Because audiences can relate to overcoming adversity. Audiences, Mark mocked the word. Always about them. Not respect. Not professionalism. Just whatever will make viewers talk. And in my case, that means dragging up my worst mistakes. Something inside Kelly snapped. Her mask slipped. Maybe the problem isn't my questions. Mark, Maybe the problem is that you're so ashamed of who you used to be. You can't stand anyone even mentioning it. The studio collectively gasped. Even Mark froze, stunned by the cruelty of it. Kelly's own face crumpled in horror, wishing she could pull the words back. Mark's expression hardened to ice. His voice dropped to a chilling whisper. Ashamed. Lady, I've spent more time in therapy, more time giving back, more time making amends than you've spent in this business. Don't you dare tell me what I am or am not ashamed of. Mark, I'm sorry. I didn't. You meant it? He cut her off, his tone brutal. Just like you meant it when you said I should have expected this treatment. You think I'm a thug who got lucky? Someone who doesn't deserve the same respect as your other guests? Tears streaked Kelly's face. That's not true. I don't think that at all. Then why? Mark roared, his voice echoing through the silent studio. Why am I always asked about the same things? Why does every interview turn into therapy? Why can't I just promote my work like anyone else? Because your story matters, Kelly sobbed. Because people need to see it's possible to change, to grow, to become better. My story. Mark laughed bitterly. You mean my trauma. The worst years of my life, packaged and sold as inspiration porn. That's what this is, isn't it? You want my pain on display so your audience can feel good about themselves. That's not fair, Kelly pleaded, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. I believe in redemption. In second chances, do you? Mark's eyes locked onto hers. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you believe in monetizing redemption. In turning people's lowest moments into your highest ratings. Kelly flinched as though slapped. How dare you? I've been nothing but supportive of my guests. I've celebrated their triumphs, encouraged them through struggles. Mark leaned in, his voice low and cutting. No, Kelly, you've celebrated what sells. And right now, he glanced at the audience, still frozen in stunned silence. This is exactly what you wanted, isn't it? While the cameras were rolling, Mark said, his voice cutting like glass, you kept up the America's Sweetheart act. But the second someone pushes back someone who won't play your game, he stopped. The silence that followed was suffocating. Kelly slumped in her chair. Mascara streaking down her face, a shadow of the polished host who'd started the hour. Mark stood tall, shoulders rigid, a fury barely contained. You're right, Kelly whispered finally, her words so faint the microphones barely caught them. I meant every word. And I'm sorry I said it out loud, sorry. I didn't just keep it in my head where it belonged. Mark blinked, surprised by the blunt admission. At least you're being honest now. Honest. Kelly gave a bitter laugh. Fine, you want honesty. Here it is. I do treat guests differently. I do see some people as better stories than others. And yes, I saw you as someone whose past would make good television that makes you feel good about yourself. Mark's tone was still cold, but curiosity edged in. Kelly looked up, eyes red and swollen. No, it makes me feel sick. But this is the business. This is what audiences want. They don't care about your new movie unless there's a headline attached. So, because the audience wants it, Mark pressed, that makes it okay to turn people into entertainment instead of treating them like human beings. Nothing makes it okay, Kelly admitted, wiping at her face. But it doesn't change the way this industry works. Mark sat back down, anger draining, replaced by something quieter. And you don't see how wrong that is. How turning real pain into content destroys people. Kelly stared at her hands for a long moment. I see it now. God help me, I see it. But I didn't start out wanting to exploit anyone. I wanted to connect to share stories that made people feel less alone. What happened? For the first time since the clash began, Mark's voice softened. Television happened, Kelly said with a sad laugh. Ratings, executives. Somewhere along the way, connection turned into content. The producer waved frantically behind the cameras, but neither of them looked away. So what are you going to do about it? Mark asked. Kelly lifted her head, fear and resolve mixing in her eyes. I want to do better. I want to be authentic without exploiting people. Then do it, Mark said simply. You've got the platform. Use it. Kelly glanced out at the stunned audience. A woman near the front raised her hand. Can I say something? Kelly nodded. Double quotes. What you just did, owning your mistakes, that took more courage than most people ever show on television. I'd rather watch someone struggle to do the right thing than watch someone pretend to be perfect. Others nodded. Murmurs of agreement rippling through the crowd. Mark looked around, taken aback. Maybe that's the answer, he said quietly. Stop manufacturing drama. Just let real moments happen, even when they're messy. Kelly gave a small, genuine laugh, the first since the meltdown began. You mean like this disaster? This wasn't a disaster, Mark replied. This was two people being real. When's the last time daytime TV gave anyone that? Kelly turned toward the still rolling cameras, ignoring the producer's frantic signals. Her makeup was smeared, her image in tatters, but her voice was steady. If we air this, she said, it changes everything. Good, Mark said. Maybe it's time. Kelly took a breath and faced the audience. Mark Wahlberg, everyone. An actor who refuses to let his story be reduced to clickbait. His new film is in theaters now. See it not for gossip, but because it has something worth saying. Mark smiled, an actual smile this time. Thank you, Kelly. And for what it's worth, you could be the best host on television. If you mean what you just said. Kelly stood and extended her hand. Thank you for not letting me hide behind business as usual. Mark rose and shook it. Thank you for having the guts to go there. Even when it got ugly. The audience erupted into applause. Unprompted, real. Kelly turned back to the camera. Her face was streaked, imperfect, human. If you stayed with us, thank you. It wasn't pretty, but it was real. And maybe that's what we need more of. Honest conversations, even when they hurt.